And welcome back to the Ruby Tuesday. My name's Ruben and this is my review for Asterix and Obelix, the Middle Kingdom. So a long time ago in South Africa, my father introduced me into the graphic novels, and I always thought they were actually English because in South Africa we get everything quite slow. So I'd been reading a number of these graphic novels for years, loving the characters of Asterix and Obelix and the little dog and, you know, everything, the nuance and the comedy that made them great, why they were funny. It was only years later that I found it was an original French storyline and they obviously had been translated. And then there's been some animated movies and we have this big live action blockbuster that's said to, you know, kind of be the greatest thing for this franchise. And of course, everybody that is a fan of the original content, especially when it comes to graphic novels or novels and the adaptation, you always go in it with like, is this going to be any good? Let's discuss. The only daughter of the Chinese Emperor Huan escapes from a strict prince and seeks help from the Gauls and the two brave warriors Asterix and Obelix. So there's a number of storylines going on in here, but for the most part, they try and take everything, all the things you know about Asterix and Obelix. If you've read any of the graphic novels, you'll know like certain things that they do that is character traits that carry on. And so they try and hit all those points in this film, you know, between the dog, between Obelix and his super strength as a baby falling in the cauldron, between his best friends and them, Asterix and Obelix falling out and having a sort of love story in there, them going on an adventure. You know, that is the part of the film for me that worked most, when they're doing the sort of relationships of them, of Obelix falling in love. That storyline I thought was good. When they're doing emotional storylines, it works a little, but I have to say for the most part this film doesn't work at all. There are comedy moments which are blatantly meant to be funny that aren't funny. And then there are comedy jokes that are written in there that makes it feel like something out of Monty Python, you know, like Biggest Dickers. But doesn't ever land. Now, I listened for about 5 minutes in the dubbing. It's so much worse. I don't know what they were thinking when they were doing the dubbing for this film. But it feels like one of those old films that have been dubbed. You know, like when you see a dog bark and then you hear it like 3 seconds later, or you see the dog bark and then it's woof, woof.
You deliberately set up an ambush, you damn bastard!
Or people talking and it's being dubbed so badly, like Kung Fu Hustle, that are on purpose in some films for comedy, but a lot of the time in the original old films they dubbed so badly.
Are you Brigadier Chow of Shenwu Fort?
It feels like that, but it also feels like it's a stage play and a character or an actor has been voicing multiple characters with just slight variation. Honestly, one of the worst dubbings I've come across in a very long time. So I went back to the original. And the original is better, obviously. It's always normally better. But the comedy and the jokes, the timing, the tempo, none of it works. Even when it comes down to the choreographed martial arts and wires, because you're going to get that because it's the Middle Kingdom and it's the fight for China. Our two main characters fighting once again Caesar and China, all the bad guys in China. That is the storyline, and I thought that was fairly impressive with the costumes. Like there's a lot of people maneuvers that they have to do, there's a lot of moving parts, which is why the budget was 72 million. I bet the costuming, that a lot of that came to it. When it comes to the CG and stuff, like there's stuff that you're just going to allow to be silly and stupid because it's Asterix and Obelix. When you smack a guy hard and he goes flying off into the air and he leaves his sandals on the ground, that is classic Asterix and Obelix, and I wanted them to embrace that more. There's some stuff that I was like just happy to see from page to screen, but it doesn't ever work right. There is something that they're missing, apart from good dialogue and scripting and presence and a number of actors that aren't actually actors, but for those that are, it just feels like that the dialogue and the timing or the directing that they were given, just this falls flat pretty much every single sequence. When we are on the China sets, that is for me when I was having the most fun. Some of the martial arts I enjoyed, even though it's wire work and it's fastly cut. I was just breathing a sigh of relief because there was something for me to enjoy. Now it's 2 hours long, and I would say it's an hour too long already. You could have condensed the story with the amount of time that they spend on certain sequences that they don't need to. They could have chopped a bunch of stuff that doesn't work. They could have chopped a bunch of conversations that had no relevance or moving the story or plot along. They just had it in there for the sake of trying to add humor that seemed to not mostly work. I don't mind the two main actors that play Asterix and Obelix. Obelix's costume or his design, if you look at the image of Obelix, he's much rounder. This guy was a weird oblong shape and the top of him looks much thinner than the other side. Asterix needs to be kind of all round. I was baffled by the choice of how they made him look. It just felt off. There's something just off about the whole film. So as much as I wanted to love it, there were so many things that I was just like, oh, cringe. And that is the thing I would say about this film. It's cringe. I love seeing the dog. I love seeing some of the moves. I love seeing an obelisk. I love seeing Asterix and Obelix on screen. But it just makes me want to go and read the graphic novels again. So let me know if you've seen some of the animated films. Did you like those? Did you perhaps like this? Have you perhaps never even read any of the graphic novels and maybe you just found this film silly and enjoyed it somewhat? That may be the case for some. But for me, coming from the background of having grown up reading the Asterix and Obelix graphic novels, or just comics, whatever you want to call them, this was hard to watch. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'm going to give this a 1.5 Nicolas Cages out of 5.
You got one. Congratulations.
And it gets a 1.5 because I enjoyed some of the moments, some of the fighting, and just seeing some of the things from page to screen. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks so much for watching, but most of all, until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.